Losing weight isn't about finding the perfect diet. Many people actually try diets that are counterproductive or even dangerous. Today we're going to cover fats, carbs, and protein and how they affect weight loss, how you can use them effectively to hit your goals. Then we'll look at diets that align with these principles. Because before any diet works, you need to understand these key factors. And if even one is not addressed, weight loss can be slow or even impossible. I'm Pavel with Prestige Fitness, and let's get right into it. Now, before we talk about weight loss, you must understand what insulin and insulin resistance is, because insulin is the hormone that dictates whether you're losing weight or not. We need to understand it at a biological level in order to manipulate it to achieve our goals. A lot of people will talk about this or that diet that works or doesn't work, but in reality, what we're worried about is just insulin. Insulin is a hormone made by your pancreas. Its main jobs are glucose intake. It tells cells to store or use sugar. And because it's a key nutrient in getting sugar in the muscles, it also helps with protein synthesis and prevents protein breakdown. AKA, you build muscle and you keep it. Unless you're resistant to insulin. Then you will have insulin, your body can't use it. That's called insulin resistance. Now, what happens with insulin resistance? Imagine talking to someone who plugs their ears. You'd have to talk even louder or even scream to be heard. That's your body with insulin resistance. Your body is being destroyed by all this insulin, so it plugs its ears, and your pancreas keeps screaming, producing more insulin. So with insulin resistance, your body produces more insulin just to do the same thing it's been doing. That causes chronically elevated levels of insulin. Now, when you get to this state, you have problems, and they manifest in a certain way. Your body blocks stored fat breakdown. Because your body recognizes there's so much sugar in the blood, why would you use your own fat stores when you need to clean up that blood? It also shuttles sugar into fat when your body already filled the liver and muscle. It causes hunger and intense cravings, because if this is a baseline sugar level, normally what happens is your blood sugars go up and insulin is used to bring it back down and then brings it back to baseline. But with insulin resistance, their sugar goes up and the resistance makes it go even higher, and then it goes low and it crashes. Now you're craving. And what do? You eat chips, bread, and then you do this. Now you're in a terrible cycle. So this sparks the cycle. This stores the fat. This prevents fat breakdown, which creates a trap. The goal is to limit insulin stimulation until you resensitize. And the way you do this is by eating less carbs. And I know you're thinking, oh no, it's this again. But carbs is shown to directly increase sugar levels. And if you're wondering what has carbs, it's anything with flour, sugar, grain, or starches. This includes bread, pasta, oatmeal, quinoa, rice, potato. A lot of people told me before, I'm trying to lose weight, so I'm having oatmeal for breakfast. Not really how it works. And of course, fruit. Fruit? I thought fruit was healthy. Well, there's a nuance to this, and it doesn't immediately and or directly spike blood sugars as much as regular sugars and carbs, but sugar is special in a way that is not good. That is because fructose has to be processed by the liver. And when you're getting too much fructose to handle, your body actually likes to turn it into visceral fat, the fat that goes inside of your gut, making that pot belly. I'm not telling you not to eat fruit, but don't go hammering down on fruit thinking it's a healthy option. What is healthy though is berries, because they have a lower glycemic load because of the fiber content is buffering the sugar spike. Don't overcomplicate it. You can have some fruit. And again, there is nuance here as well. Don't look at all carbs as bad. The carbs you want to avoid is refined carbs and sugars, pizzas, bread, sugars, candies, juice, soda. Those are refined and not complex, meaning the sugar spike looks more like this as opposed to this. So by this I mean when you are eating carbs, I highly recommend complex carbs because you'll get a sugar spike that looks more like this and your body can manage it more. Better carbs would be that quinoa. Oatmeal, although I don't really recommend it because you're not really having oatmeal with anything else. Potato is good if you manage it. It has good potassium. Berries are amazing because of the high fiber. You can have a little bit of fruit. Now the question is, when I'm talking low carb, how low should we go? So there's like 3 ranges, and it depends on your gender and your caloric maintenance, meaning the bigger you are, the more you need to eat. Maintenance, I would say, is anything above 150 grams per day. But once you get to 100 or 150 grams, you might start seeing some insulin resistance improvement. And a quick nuance, your body really responds to how often insulin is stimulated. For example, it's better to have 3 solid meals a day instead of 3 whatever meals with 2 snacks. Even better yet, having a big breakfast and dinner and skipping lunch. Cortisol, we'll talk about that later. And low carb, I would classify as 50 or 75 grams per day. With this, you will start seeing insulin resistance improvements. Yes, this is not ideal for muscle growth, but remember, your muscle growth is garbage anyways because you have insulin resistance and your muscles are resisting to growth because sugar can't go inside of them. And some people will come at me and say, you don't need to limit your carbs. You just need to be in a caloric deficit. Okay, all your calories can come from carbs, but what your body is going to tell you at the end of the day is, my blood sugars are jacked, give me more sugar. And I bet you that person can't stick to their regimen because their cravings are destroying them. And this exists on a spectrum. How insulin resistant are you? So active people can get away with a mid-range of carbs and see insulin resistant improvements, whereas inactive people should really stay on the lower end. Because yes, when you exercise, your muscles burn calories or sugar, allowing your body to store sugar back into the muscle when you eat your next meal to get the sugar out of the blood. Anyways, you got it, you understand carbs. Protein is crucial for fat loss. Even if you're a 40-year-old mom that gives no garbage for building muscle, you still need protein. Perfect examples. The Weigel et al. Study conducted in 2005 deduced that increasing people's calories coming from protein from 15% to 30% of their diet with no other changes in their diet led to the participants losing 11 pounds of fat in less than 3 months, doing nothing else but eating more protein. They concluded that everyone just so happened to be craving less, thus naturally eating less food. So the guideline of protein is this. If someone's eating 2,000 calories per day, eating 30% of that in protein would mean 600 of the calories they ate came from protein, which equates to 150 grams per day. In all the studies and literature, they deduced that 0.7 grams or 1 gram per 1 pound of body weight for a 150 pound person would be 105 to 150 grams of protein per day. Now, if you're less active or a female, you'll get towards the lower end and you'll do just fine. But as someone very active or a male, you would bump this up a little bit to see better results. And in all the literature, they showed that people working out trying to build muscle, the sweet spot of protein intake is still around 1 gram. If you struggle to get your protein in daily, I would recommend whey protein isolate. Because depending on what you're cooking, you can even add it to your food. Better yet, a berry smoothie by the end of the day. But if you know you've had enough protein for that day, you can just skip the protein powder. Just eat more protein. Let's talk about your fats. Also bacon, butter, saturated, and trans fats. So get this. Fat, which is glorious, it's delicious, but it can be terrible in certain forms. And I'm talking really bad. Let's talk about the good and bad. Why is it so good? Low insulin spike. If you ate a meal of just carbs, your insulin spike would look like that. But if you ate a meal with half carbs, half fat, your blood spike would look more like that. Because fat barely spikes insulin, meaning the more daily calories of carbs you replace with fats, your daily insulin exposure will be reduced. That's the good thing. The only downside is that fat is just slower to digest. This is just not good for athletes who need a quick spike. They need the endurance, the power. But for most people out there, they don't need all that for clicking their fingers on a keyboard. But do you understand what I'm saying? This is scientifically proved. Utilize it. Let's talk about saturated fat, quite controversial topic. But again, I'm not on anyone's side. I'm just speaking from the literature. Basically, if you still believe saturated fat is bad, let me help you out. This is pulled from studies from 1950s and 80s that created myths. They concluded that saturated fat increased bad cholesterol, but it also raises good cholesterol. And basically what's happening, when the good cholesterol is increased, the bad cholesterol's particle size is reduced, making it less harmful. So it's all just a beautiful balance. It's not bad. And the thought that because saturated fat is greasy, it's greasing up and clogging your arteries is completely false as well, because can you try getting grease through your stomach acid? And your body has a soap to clean the fat out. It's called bile. Now with more recent studies, they're showing that there is no evidence to heart disease with increased saturated fats. Your body needs saturated fats to build its blood-brain barrier. Even around 90% of your skin is made of saturated fats. Saturated fats are also way more stable when cooking. Next, trans fats. Well, these are actually very bad. And you might be thinking you're not eating any, but in reality, they are sneaking this in all your food. When you're eating potato chips from generic brands, you'll look at the trans fats and it says 0 grams, but really it could be 0.5 grams. And they're not required to round that up to 1. There still is trans fats and you're still eating them. And these are probably the worst thing for your health. So trans fats increase bad cholesterol, but they decrease good cholesterol. So now the bad cholesterol is becoming harmful and the cholesterol is ending up in your arteries and actually clogging your arteries. And this is terrible for blood circulation throughout your entire body, sexual health and brain health. Trans fats stimulate whole systemic inflammation, which just increases your entire mortality death rate. Heart disease, brain fog, kidney disease, all the itises, arthritises, major contributor of diabetes, has a direct harm to arteries. So this means stay away from margarine, fried foods, packaged baked goods, snack foods, chips, microwave popcorn, things in that category. Really limit those. Even non-dairy creamers have it, and certain coffees. We're just talking about a diet. Anywho, calories. You cannot lose weight unless you're in a deficit. Meaning, search up a calorie calculator on the internet, link in the description, figure out your maintenance calories, and if you want to lose weight, assuming 2,500 is maintenance, you'd need to eat 500 less per day to lose 1 pound of fat per week. And if you want to gain weight, add 500 to do the opposite. Now, some people don't like counting the calories. Just try not to stuff yourself. And if over a couple months you notice you're not losing weight, start counting the calories. And if you find even when you're counting calories, you're not losing weight, look for hidden sources of calories. Olive oils, butters, peanut butter here and there, anything fatty. Fats are extremely calorie dense. So just make sure you're not forgetting them. But keep in mind, do not go below 1,200 calories per day unless you're fasting and you know what you're doing. If you're teasing your body with food, your body will enter survival mode. Lower thyroid functions, hormone production, metabolism. Your body will adapt to making and using less energy, and you'll feel terrible and you might lose weight, but most of it will be mainly muscle. So don't make your deficit too big. All right. All of this you can do and you might still not lose weight. Why is that? Well, you should be so glad because I'm giving you quite the bomb of a video. The next thing is something called cortisol. You know, I just like want to punch it in the face. But cortisol, through sustained stress, you don't want the effects of cortisol. Destroys muscle. Cortisol is catabolic, meaning it breaks things down. Your body's cortisol is high and it thinks it's in survival mode. So it's using muscles as quick energy to get sugar and energy in your body. And it loves to do that by shrinking your muscles and taking sugar out of them. And it has an affinity for shrinking the muscles in your thighs and butt. When you're gaining weight and fat due to high cortisol, it mainly wants to go to the gut, which is terribly anesthetic and really bad for you. And this alone can ruin your insulin, mainly because there's the normal subcutaneous fat that goes under your skin, but this promotes visceral fat, which is highly inflammatory. The worst part is, it also increases cravings. And it doesn't stop there. Your adrenal glands will function worse and actually ruin your sleep. Racing thoughts, tossing and turning. High cortisol. I wish it stopped there, but cortisol tells your liver to turn proteins and fats, the healthy foods you're eating, into sugar through gluconeogenesis. And I'm trying my best, but for some reason I can't lose weight. Now, what's causing high cortisol? Try to have a less stressful life. Try to calm down, meditate, relax. At a cellular level, it can be caused by excessive caloric deficit, extreme training that you're not adapted to, high stress, poor sleep, and also low activity. Yes, there's a healthy amount of activity that actually buffers cortisol, because at a neurochemical level, when you're working out, you're releasing endorphins and serotonin, and you're also getting an improved HPA axis regulation, meaning when you're exercising, you're causing an acute short spike of cortisol, and it teaches your body to handle it better, and you will have a lower baseline cortisol throughout the day. Major benefits. Here's what reduces insulin sensitivity. Vegetable oils, seed oils, coming from fast foods, low fiber and bad gut health, sleep deprivation, high stress, low activity, excessive alcohol, and any deficiencies in these can make it worse. Now let's finally talk about what diets fit with this regimen. Now the one I would personally recommend, healthy keto, expanded on by Dr. Berg. A more intense yet still very effective one would be carnivore, including meat, fish, eggs, and organ meats, very important, and some dairy. Not super restrictive, but if you know Jordan Peterson and his daughter, they both had terrible autoimmune dysfunctions and arthritis, and when they switch over to carnivore diet, almost all their symptoms go away. Something that not even dedicated medication and practices couldn't help them with. This helped them. Another one is Omni, which is just a hybrid of these two basically. Something like Atkins is like higher protein, basically just lower carbs, and it's where you slowly, once you achieve your goals with the diet, reintroduce carbs. You should choose the best diet that works for you and aligns with your goals. But one thing I want you to take away is dieting is a lifestyle. You got in this issue in the first place, you need to tweak some things to make sure you don't get back into it. Meaning you might just need to eat a little less carbs and a little more protein, or just do some less snacking, or maybe we'll exercise more. And that's it. This formula can basically guarantee you results. Do this and weight loss becomes possible and even unstoppable. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to subscribe and share this video if it's helped you out. And with that being said, I'll see you next time. Bye.